This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Andy Theronier.
Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Are you in need of the best private jet staffing and the best hospital staffing in Palm Beach? One might be closer than you think. Today I have the pleasure of introducing you, our good neighbor, Thiago Sensini, with OSI Aviation and Medical Recruitment. Thiago, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's great to have you in the neighborhood today.
Me too. Feel great.
All right. Well, we're excited to learn all about you and your business. Now let's just jump right into it. Tell us about your company. Everybody want to know, what does private aviation has to do with staffing and all that?
You know, it's a very unique industry. Everything in aviation as a whole is very unique. And what we do is a niche of niche, type of work. So I'll give you an example. You have families that own private jets for their operations, for their businesses, for personal leisure. And in the process of that, it's not just owning a jet. Everything comes with it. You need pilots, you need mechanics, you need managers to run it all and schedule it all. There's a series of softwares and insurances you need, and somebody's going to do that work. So our niche is the staffing part of it. We'll find them anything they need, whether it's an office personnel, whether it's a private jet pilot, whether it's a management manager for the operation. And that's just basically the work that we do. It's specifically on that. We don't go beyond that. We actually operate 80% of it in the personal flight departments, finding the pilots and the managers and so on and so forth. But we don't get involved with the managing the aircraft or anything else. We're specifically doing just the hiring and the maintaining of the crew.
And you mentioned that you're a two-part company. Tell us more about the medical side.
Correct. So we've been in business since 2008, 2009 now. As we grew in aviation, first we started with engineering, went to pilots and everything else, and the pilot dominated. And so the company balanced out pretty well. However, we have a really good process. Everything in aviation is extremely intricate, right? We have a lot of rules, a lot of regulations, and we were able to maneuver that into the medical side, and it kind of happened by ricochet. It was one of my clients that happens to be a surgeon, and he said, "Hey, can you help me in my office? I know that's not your field." I said, "Yeah, we can help you, So we kind of did that work, and we did it really well. We ended up turning every single employee in their office from, I think he had like 12 at a time, and we basically turned them all. And his retention went up and everything else. He goes, "Now I see why companies use companies like yours." And but he goes, "You guys go above and beyond a little bit." I said that's just our aviation procedure. So that's when the light bulb went off. We figured something out here that we had a really good procedure that could be applied in other industries. So then becomes the work, what industry do you go into, right? What's the most profitable? What's the most similar? Where can we use the same clients that we have? And that's how the medical part came out. So we specifically went into cardiovascular at first. Worked with about 6 different surgeons in South Florida. Built our name around there for the last couple of years to test the water. And then we just full-blown launched medical work. We got contracts with hospitals now and so on and so forth. So it's growing at a very rapid pace, much faster than aviation ever did. And partially is probably because the process is already in place.
Okay. Yeah, that's actually pretty exciting. That leads me to get to this question. How did you get into this business? I can't wait to hear this.
That is a very long story, but short. My father has been in aviation for 45 years now or so. He worked for 2 premier jet manufacturers in the world. I'm not going to disclose names just to keep things, but he worked for 2 of those and pretty high up executive. Did very well in his life. And when we moved to Florida was when I went to college. And when I came out of college, I went to work for him for about a couple of years and sold engineering services. I was not in the whole recruitment side of things yet. I was just selling services. So we would go to companies that were developing interiors of private jets and say, "Hey, we'll do the designs, we'll do part of the manufacturing, here's our capabilities," and so forth. And that's what I was doing. So that kind of gave me contacts and everything else. And through the mix of all that, one of our clients, which is honestly one of my dad's old client, my dad's current client, they needed some people inside. and on the company. And I said, hey, the client wants to put some of those engineers in house, blah, blah, blah. And they're pretty adamant about not doing so because they're an engineering company. Otherwise, they lose their core. So I understood. And so then I was like, hey, can I do this? Like, is this, that'd be okay with me leaving and doing this, even though it's your client and all that. So we crossed the deal, and they're like, yep, full throttle. So we ran with that. And that's how it started. And at the time I was 27 years old or something like that when I started this. So not a whole lot of knowledge, really just determination that I was intrigued by aviation. It's definitely unique. And it became a question like, where can this go, right? With recruitment, it's endless. You just keep adding accounts, keep going from there, as long as the procedures and process sustain it. So that was our approach. It was nothing. And then in the middle of all that, the growth comes from, you got great friends, you got mentors, you got this, you got that. The network just kind of builds in itself. And once that was accomplished, then we knew we had something. So it was right around year 7, right around 2015, we knew we had something really good in our hands. And the feedback was becoming really good. And then our clientele came from word of mouth. We don't market. We don't do any of that stuff. We're very quiet, actually. And our clients like it. So it kind of works.
Okay. Well, for exciting industry, right, I got to ask you, what are some myths or misconceptions in your industry?
It's very complex. The entire industry as a whole is complex. And we have to, because of the level of money that you're dealing with on a daily basis and the decisions that these people are making, and we're making, and managers are making, and owners are making, you really got to filter out and find out who these people are, so you don't get involved with bad stuff. That's how aircraft repossessions happens. That's how, all this other bad stuff could possibly happen. And so we bring a level of safety to that to be able to say, hey, we know this pilot, we have history with this pilot, here's all his credentials. This is top notch, and plus we have insurance on top of all that. But that level of safety, all of a sudden the owners see the value of that. Ultimately, they want a private jet for safety, right? They wanted. It's not just, I own a private jet, but it's cool. There's a cool factor to it, but it's not about that. It's about saving time for them. So their trips, their meetings. I have owners that will flop between 4 different cities in 4 different states and do 1-hour meetings in the plane and fly right back on the same day. And so it's really a need at that point, when you're running an operation that big. So that's number one. Number 2 is the family environment. They get to a point in life where they can enjoy their family and really outside the box, and for their kids and all that stuff. So it's a safety issue, right? It's very sad when there's an incident or an accident, and people pass away. That's terribly sad. And every year for us it gets more complex, right? Because we grow a little bit more and a little bit more. So we need to be able to really protect our clients. So it's the safety aspect is what sells our services. Being able to know who's in your cockpit, who truly is in your cockpit. You see what I mean?
Very good point. Very good point. So that leads to this. Who are your target customers and how do you attract them?
It's all word of mouth, man. It's, I'll do a plane, I'll staff a plane in one airport. Next thing I know, their buddy short something, call this guy, and the next thing I know, my phone rings and, or one of our employees' phones rings. And so it's really reputation. We never went our goal was never to, even though we service the whole world, we service, a couple government entities down in South America. We service a lot of private owners. Some are worldwide, most of it's in America. But it just comes from that, and in that circle of people that you maintain, and the good ones, obviously, clients come and go sometimes, but that circle of trust of people that have been in the industry for 20, 30 years, vouch for you, and when they sell a plane to a big family, just names out there, Corona family, Dunkin' Donuts family, whatever, one of these guys, they sell planes to one of them, and they need pilots, and they're putting their word on it. Say, hey, call Thiago. Call, this is the guy that you want to do this work for you. So there's a lot of value there, right? So in our line, we're not like retail. We're not selling, we don't have a shop where there's a lot of traffic. Where traffic is 1%, and then you take 1% of that basically, which is our clientele. So it's not just because you own a private jet that we would take you as a customer, because there's a lot of factor goes into it. Some owners are not safe. Some owners don't follow procedures and don't follow maintenance schedules and all that stuff, or whether it's financial reasons or whatever reason it may be. But some owners don't do that, and so that puts a fear on us because, hey, what's the future of our pilot going to look like, right? If we put somebody there and vouch for this person, right? Because there's a repercussion too. We put a pilot in a bad account, I lose the account, and then I lose the pilot on top of that, right? That's another thing, right? So we don't want that. The pilots are my product. So we emphasize a lot of value on that over the years in building those relationships with those top guys. Because those top guys brings us their friends, which just so happens to be another top guy, So that's kind of where we sit there. We have a really good rating system on our CRM, which really, details a lot of stuff about pilots, their ratings, and this and that, whatever. So that way, when we look back 4 or 5 years, which just happened today, actually, I'm talking to somebody that called me out of the blue, and I pull up on my system. It turns out it's a really good guy that I had a really good experience with before, and all of a sudden, he's now on top of my list for this position. See what I mean? So that value that took years to build, now we know who they are, and not all of them, obviously, because there's a lot of good people touching quietly, that have been in a career for 15, 20 years. But we have a pretty good idea, and we can access them, right? So ultimately, again, or clients are paying for that. They're like, hey, don't just grab me off the street. Give me pedigree.
Okay. What I gather from all that is that name recognition is actually at the top of everything.
Everything.
All right. Now,
everything.
You sound super busy. It sounds like this is your life. Let me ask you, what do you do outside of work for fun?
Play golf with my buddies. Do a little fishing. Obviously, we're Florida here. This is, if you don't enjoy golf or fishing, you're in the wrong state. This is the fun here. So it's but that's what we enjoy. Summertime we try to fish quite a bit. Wintertime is golf time with friends and events and stuff. So, but yeah.
Just in case our viewers want to challenge you, what's your handicap?
Not that good. Probably a 15. Not that good. There was a time I played a little bit better, but not as good anymore.
You're better than me. So let's switch gears. Can you describe a hardship or a life challenge that you overcame and how it made you stronger? What comes to mind?
Whew. When I started, before I started the company, right when I started working for my dad, right after that, there was an in-between, with the projects, and I went through a really hard time. I didn't have any money coming in, right? So that first year and a half was, I joke around today, but I remember still tell my parents, I'm like, I remember living on $100 a week. I had to, eat, get food for the dog, put gas in the car. I was a smoker at the time, so buying cigarettes and all this other stuff. And I'm sitting here going, man, I was like, something's going to give. And it's just that belief. So, to most people, it's like, oh, that's not a hardship. It is when you're making a choice. You're working a part-time job in a restaurant to make some money, so you can invest into a company that you really don't know where it's going to go, other than there's a potential, right? So that was really hard then. It was lack of knowledge, a lot of it, if I had more knowledge, so they done a lot of things differently. However, on the other side, it made me a lot of the contacts I have today. My architecture is built on those people that I met throughout that process, So here we are now, 15 years later, whatever it may be now, 17 years later, and it's rock solid. So that was one of them.
So basically, you invested in yourself and trusted in the future of your hard work.
That's correct. It was a big bet. It was a big bet. And if you failed, it failed. But, if you failed by the time I was 30, we had different, I could start a career still, at that point.
That's true. So, Thiago, please tell our listeners one thing they should remember about your company right now.
I'm sorry, say it again?
Please tell our listeners one thing they should remember about your company.
That I should remember. Safety, procedural safety. Safety is something. Quality is everything for us. Okay. We like to know when we tell a client and say, hey, this is a person for you that's not just technically inclined for the job, but it's culturally fit too. And that's the other part of this work. You've got to understand how your clients think, what triggers them, what will affect them, their decision making. And again, that cultural value, when you match those two, you can't put somebody that can't not take heat with an owner that puts a lot of heat. That doesn't work, right? So, and it's vice versa, right? So we've done that. We noticed that when we tell them, hey, this is your guy, even if you may have a little hesitation or so forth, but trust me on this, and there's warranty on it, so we'll replace it if you don't like it. And then 2-3 months later, after 100 hours of flight time, they basically go, you're right, this is our guy, and then 8 years later, I'm having lunch with both of them, the owner and the pilot. Hey, how's it going? How are things going? And they're both super happy. So that's really what gives us the value. There's a lot of emotional value that comes in afterwards that you end up collecting on in a weird way. Where you're like, man, this is good. You've changed somebody's life, right? From a perspective, they went to a better job and so forth. But you also provide a service to somebody that's really happy and really trusts you now, and therefore all his friends are really going to trust you now. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I have one last question. How can our listeners learn more about OSI Aviation and medical recruitment, and how can they reach you?
Please visit our website. It's osirecruit.com. Very simple. Go in there, and that displays work capabilities, displays information. Our contact information is in there as well. Be able to contact us if you have any questions, services. We do often do review HR reviews for companies sometimes, to round them up a little bit better as well. So it's not just a recruitment. We have other services that we add as well. And for the candidates, we provide a very great resume service. It's not just your typical service that everybody charges, $40-$50. We do it for free, actually. You sign up in there, and then it's just a format, but it keeps your resume in a really nice format, properly, edited and by a human, not just AI putting numbers, words together. It's really inclined towards you. So that's a service that we do for free anyways. So if you'd like to have that, and just go on our website, subscribe to it, and as soon as you enter all the information, your resume will pop up in there. So it's all automatic now.
Well, Thiago, I really appreciate you being on the show. We wish you and your business the best moving forward, and we'll see you in the neighborhood.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnppalmbeach.com. That's gnppalmbeach.com. Or call 561-783-8999.